A new scholarly work has emerged, Josephus and Jesus by Dr. Thomas C. Schmidt of the Fairfield University, published by Oxford University Press in 2025. This isn't just another academic meditation, it's a serious intellectual earthquake. For centuries, the Testimonium Flavianum, Josephus' celebrated first-century reference to Jesus, has been hotly debated. Skeptics and defenders alike have wrestled with the questions of authenticity and interpolation. Schmidt confronts that debate head-on, employing linguistic, stylistic, and manuscript analysis to argue that Josephus truly authored the passage, and that it originally portrayed Jesus in a neutral, perhaps even muted light. Now, scholars must reckon with what this means for our understanding of Jesus, not as a myth or legend, but as a historical figure seen through the eyes of a Jewish eyewitness. This book marks a pivotal turning point. Schmidt's central claim reframes the Testimonium not as a Christian embellishment, but as a non-Christian historical notice, perhaps even subdued or neutral. Through this lens, we are no longer dealing with apologetic fiction, but with witness testimony. If Josephus, a Jew writing under Roman authority in 93 or 94 AD, referred to Jesus using ambiguous yet authentic phrasing, and if Schmidt's stylometric analysis confirms Josephus's voice, then we may have a compelling external evidence for Christ's life. Schmidt's methodology restores the TF as credible historical source, reinforcing the reality of Jesus and challenging the assumption that the earliest external account of Christ was forged? Flavius Josephus, a first-century Jewish historian, is one of the rare non-Christian voices to mention Jesus. His Antiquities of the Jews, written circa 93-94 AD roughly, contains two references, the more extensive Testimonium Flavianum in Book 18 and a brief mention of Jesus' brother James in Book 20. While James' reference is generally considered authentic by most scholars, the TF has long been treated cautiously. Its current form portrays Jesus as the Messiah, a teacher, and one who rose on the third day. Language, many argue, betrays Christian interpolation. Enter Thomas C. Schmidt. In Josephus and Jesus, New Evidence for the One Called Christ, he challenges the default consensus by meticulously reconstructing the Testimonium's original phrasing. Schmidt posits that two brief omissions, one being the word certain and another the phrase thought to be Christ, were later subtractions rather than additions. Restoring them turns the text neutral, removing overtly flattering language. This internal technical approach supports his broader argument that Josephus wrote a moderate report, not overt praise of a figure widely discussed in Judea. Schmidt further demonstrates through stylometric comparison across Josephus's work that the TF matches his Josephus' typical vocabulary, syntax, and tone. He also argues Josephus may have known firsthand some of the first men involved in Jesus' trial, lending credibility to his reportage. Schmidt's book thus recasts the Testimonium as neither forgery nor simply legend, but as a plausible historical mention from a contemporary observer. Schmidt's argument rests on three pillars: textual restoration, stylometric analysis, and contextual credibility. With textual restoration, Schmidt identifies subtle deletions in the Testimonium that, when reinstated, alter its tone. For instance, the removal of qualifiers like thought to be the Christ transforms the passage. With them restored, the text loses its unequivocal messianic affirmation and becomes a more cautious third-person observation. This suggests that Josephus wasn't endorsing Jesus, merely reporting. With stylometric analysis, drawing on statistical methods, Schmidt compares the TF's vocabulary, phrases, and syntax to Josephus's original known style. The results strongly align, more so than with any known Christian interpolator's writing. In other words, the TF reads like Josephus, not like a later scribe. And lastly, with context and witness, Josephus mentions the first men among us when describing the sources behind his information on Jesus, a phrase he uses elsewhere for personally known individuals. Since Josephus lived in Judea and mingled with high-ranking elites, he may well have known some of the Sanhedrin or the figures involved in Jesus' trial. This places Josephus in a position to report verifiable events, not hearsay. Independent reviewers and reviewers at Oxford University Press praise Schmidt's philological rigor and consider this work a scholarly achievement with the potential to reshape the understanding of the Testimonium's historical value. The discovery of credible extra-biblical references to Jesus, especially from a non-Christian source, has long bolstered the historicity of Christ. Tacitus and the other Roman writers provide important but sparse corroboration. Josephus's testimony has often been viewed skeptically but remains central. Enter Schmidt's intervention, which arrives amid ongoing debates about the Christ myth theory and authenticity of first-century references, and the broader question for historical Jesus studies. By reinforcing the Testimonium as likely genuine, albeit neutral, Schmidt's work strengthens the case that Jesus was a real historical figure, not a myth. This isn't a fringe claim, it's rooted in sound academic rigor from Oxford University Press, no less. It provides a firmer foundation for the consensus that Jesus existed, performed notable deeds, and was crucified under Pilate, all in a lost chapter of first-century history. Consider the impact a Jewish historian, not sympathetic to Christianity, writes about Jesus. According to Schmidt, Josephus did so without overt bias, or at least without glorifying Jesus. That carries major weight. If the Testimonium, when properly restored and contextualized, is authentic, it marks a rare extra-biblical affirmation of Jesus' existence, one grounded in antiquity, not later hagiography. As Schmidt shows, the restored version may even have understated Jesus' significance. Early Christian readers likely amplified its meaning. That signals a powerful dynamic. Josephus observed a man from Nazareth who astonished crowds, was tried, suffered, and whose followers persisted. He may not have called him Messiah, but his documentation legitimizes Jesus as a historical figure, not fiction. The scholarly community is taking note. Reviews call Schmidt's book a solid defense, and an extraordinary scholarly achievement. In lectures and interviews, Schmidt himself underscores that ancient Christians did not treat the TF as gospel. They often read it as a matter of fact or even neutral, which aligns with his reconstruction. This climax isn't just academic, it touches on profound cultural and religious narratives. The existence of Jesus, his works, and his resurrection can no longer be dismissed as purely faith-based claims. Schmidt's work stakes a compelling claim. The Testimonium is a valid, early, and non-Christian witness to Christ. With meticulous scholarship and bold insight, Thomas C. Schmidt has unearthed a new level of credibility for Josephus' testimony. Josephus and Jesus reframes the Testimonium as a sober, non-Christian report. It challenges skeptics, empowers believers, and marks a pivotal moment in the quest for the historical Jesus. And still, we don't have the Epstein list.